This webinar runs about 35 minutes. Hello and welcome to the Blood Horse's informational session on the TrueNicks system. Renowned pedigree analyst Alan Porter has prepared a short overview of the system, and then he and TrueNicks co-founder Byron Rogers will answer readers' questions about the nicking program. As you watch the presentation, you may submit questions using the submission box below the video screen. Follow along as Byron and Alan's responses are posted in the text box. And now I'll turn this over to Alan Porter. Alan?
Hi, I'm Alan Porter. Welcome to TrueNicks, the most sophisticated, powerful and accurate nicking program ever devised. TrueNicks is a program that evaluates a pedigree in terms of the affinity between the sire and broodmare sire, or sire line and broodmare sire line. The output's both a raw number and a letter grade score. But that's not all. The TrueNicks program also provides a custom report with multiple data fields. TrueNicks has been developed by a partnership between the Blood Horse Publications, publisher of the Blood Horse magazine, the official publication of the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, and Pedigree Research LLC, a thoroughbred consultancy headed by Byron Rogers and Alan Porter. Byron Rogers has been Stallion Nomination and Bloodstock Manager at Arrowfield Stud in Australia and Director of the Stallion Division at TaylorMade Farm in Kentucky. He's now National Sales Manager of William Inglis & Son, Australia's leading thoroughbred auctioneers. In addition, Byron's been involved in the mating plans for numerous top-class runners. And for me, Alan Porter, TrueNicks represents the realization of something that I wanted to achieve since entering the field of pedigree research well over 30 years ago. TrueNicks is powered by data from the Jockey Club information systems. TrueNicks is the only thoroughbred nicking program to have access to what is almost certainly the largest and most current thoroughbred database in the world. As a result, TrueNicks is the only thoroughbred nicking program that's able to take into account all foals and all starters bred on a cross, and the only one with overnight updating. TrueNicks' association with the Blood Horse and the Jockey Club means that TrueNicks is very much the industry's nicking system. Well, we keep talking about nicks. So, what are nicks? Well, throughout the history of the thoroughbred, breeders have noticed that some stallions tend to sire particularly good offspring when mated to daughters of another stallion, and that the daughters of some stallions have produced good offspring when bred to a specific sire or his sons. The best nicks occur when the sire and broodmare sire both improve each other. That happened with two of the greatest horses in American racing history, Man of War and Secretariat. Both are products of famous nicks, Man of War representing the cross of Fair Play and mares by Roxanne, and Secretariat representing the cross of Bold Ruler over mares by Prince Quillo. In the development of TrueNicks, studies of the pedigrees of over 100,000 horses confirm that the affinity between the sire and the broodmare sire, or the sire line and the broodmare sire line, remains an important predictor of racing success. The TrueNicks rating is achieved by studying real opportunity. First, it takes the sire or sire line and compares how that sire or sire line is done with mares from the selected broodmare sire or broodmare sire line, compared with all other mares. That results in the Sire Improvement Index, otherwise known as the SII. Then it looks at the mares bred to a sire or sire line and compares the success of those mares when bred to that sire or sire line with the success of those mares when bred to all other sires. This results in the Broodmare Sire Improvement Index, or BSII. The combination of the SII and BSII results in the TrueNicks rating, which is then converted to a letter score. The TrueNicks program utilizes a complex algorithm to ensure that the calculation is based on the minimum possible number of generations from the sire and broodmare sire. Now, to give a practical example of how the TrueNicks rating works, if we consider AP Indy, we find that he achieves a high sire improvement index with mares by Deputy Minister. As a broodmare sire, Deputy Minister achieves a high broodmare sire improvement index when his daughters are bred to AP Indy. The multiplication of the sire improvement index and broodmare sire improvement index results in the TrueNicks rating. An example of this process is the mating between AP Indy and the Deputy Minister mare Better Than Honour that resulted in a 2004 filly, named Rags to Riches. Let's take a look at her TrueNicks report. With a TrueNicks rating of 5.83, Rags to Riches, the champion 3-year-old filly of 2007 and heroine of the Belmont Stakes, is an A+ rated horse. Now, using Rags to Riches as an example, let's take a closer look at the TrueNicks report. At the top left of the page, we find the name of the horse. Underneath that comes the cross on which the rating is based, in this case the AP Indy Deputy Minister cross. Below that is the name of the breeder. At the top right-hand side of the page is the TrueNicks letter grade, and the variant, the TrueNicks rating. Also at the top right of the page, we find the time and date stamp, a permanent reference to when this pedigree was run. The page also features a 5-cross pedigree. The TrueNicks calculation does not analyse inbreeding or line breeding, but realising these are important factors for many breeders, the TrueNicks page highlights in colour any ancestor that appears more than once. Each different ancestor is shown in a different colour. Shifting to the lower half of the TrueNicks report, a feature which is unique to TrueNicks, a list of the 5 best runners bred on the cross, along with the level of their best win if in a group or graded stakes or a listed race. This is accompanied by the name of the sire and the broodmare sire of the horse. With the Jockey Club database constantly being updated, new stakes winners appear on this list within 24 hours of the race. At the bottom of the page on the left-hand side, you will find the Roman dosage profile, along with the dosage index and centre of distribution. We've mentioned the TrueNicks rating or variant and the letter grade. Now it's time to explain them in detail. To assist in better understanding the TrueNicks rating, which is the product of combining the sire and broodmare sire improvement index, the TrueNicks raw score is converted to a letter grade from A to D and F as in the academic system. This conversion to a letter grade was carefully calibrated on a test group of over 100,000 horses and took due consideration of the percentage of stakes winners and percentage of the overall population that fell into each grade. For example, only around 10% of the entire population are rated A++, but 37% of the stakes winners achieve that rating. Horses rated B or better represent around a third of the entire population, yet more than 3/4 of stakes winners rate B or better. The group of horses rated C, that's average, has a stakes winner production percentage that's virtually identical to the percentage of the population it represents as a whole. Nearly half of all thoroughbreds are on the lower end of the level of the scale, rated C or below, and yet they provide only 8% of all stakes winners. The TrueNicks rating is designed to inform and educate a breeder or buyer, and therefore is something that should be intelligently interpreted rather than followed blindly. Studies of over 100,000 horses show that the NIC rating is a very strong guide to potential success. But there are numerous other factors that should be considered. For example, the TrueNicks rating does not take into account the class of the sire and the dam. Although the class aspect of a pedigree is a very important fact, in general, breeders or buyers are usually comparing like with like, stallions in a similar price range, or yearlings in the same price range in a sale, for example. Obviously, it's also extremely important to consider the confirmation of a potential purchase or the physical suitability of the sire for the mare. The list of the best horses bred on a cross can also yield very valuable information for intelligent interpretation. Take, for example, the cross of Dynaformer over mares by Mr. Prospector and his sons. This cross only earns a C TrueNicks rating. However, when we look at the best winners bred on the cross, we can see Dynaformer has sired 4 graded winners and 3 Grade 1 winners out of mares by Mr. Prospector and his sons. So, while Dynaformer's percentage of stakes winners bred on the cross is only a little better than Opportunity, when the cross has worked, it's worked very well, so could still be worth considering. On occasion, instead of a letter grade and a variant, the rating box will show no rating. This means that even after going back for 3 generations of the sire line and 3 generations of the broodmare sire line, there are insufficient stakes winners or starters to achieve a valid rating. To achieve a TrueNicks rating, the cross must have had either 15 starters or 2 stakes winners out of different mares. Unlike some nicking programs, TrueNicks does not give a rating on the basis of only one stakes winner. Having explained what TrueNicks is and what it does, we should now answer the questions: where do I find TrueNicks? And how do I use TrueNicks? TrueNicks can be found on the TrueNicks website at www.truenicks.com. The website's not only a source for TrueNicks ratings, but also contains a blog that has valuable pedigree and breeding related updates, analysis and insight. TrueNicks are also found on the Blood Horse Stallion Register online, where there is a link to the TrueNicks homepage. TrueNicks links to subscribing stallions can also be found in the Stallion Register online searches and on the individual stallion pages. And finally, they're also on Equine Line, the official source of reports from the Jockey Club. Now let's consider who can benefit from TrueNicks and what are its applications. For broodmare owners, the TrueNicks Hypothetical Mating Report, complimentary for subscribing stallions, is a very valuable tool. With conclusive evidence of the correlation between nick ratings and performance, the TrueNick rating can be used to give an increased chance of racetrack success. It's also well known that buyers are attracted to horses bred on proven crosses, so breeding on patterns that give good TrueNick ratings also gives the opportunity of increased commercial desirability. For buyers at auction, running a named foal report or a hypothetical mating for an unnamed foal will provide a strong indication of the individual stakes potential relative to other horses at the same commercial level. In both instances, in addition to the rating, studying the best winners bred can give an indication of the type of horse one might expect from the mating, while the dosage analysis can give more information on potential aptitude. The 5-generation pedigree with highlighted inbreeding and the inbreeding summary makes potentially valuable inbreeding and line breeding patterns easy to detect. There are also many benefits for stallion managers who subscribe their stallions to the TrueNicks program. Subscribing a stallion to TrueNicks not only allows unlimited in-house use, but also provides links from the stallion's home site, from the Blood Horse Stallion Register online, and the TrueNicks site, all allowing broodmare owners to run complementary reports. The ability to run complementary reports for their mares is likely to attract interest from breeders, and the TrueNicks page also makes it easy for them to run reports on other subscribing stallions at the same farm. In addition to generating interest in a stallion, the TrueNicks program considerably increases the chances of breeders booking mares that complement a sire, increasing his chances of stud success. And equally important, it helps avoid crosses that are proven failures. We're happy to announce that the next few months will see some important announcements regarding the TrueNicks product line. The rating has already begun to appear in both the pre- and post-sale Blood Horse Data Digest and will soon be incorporated in other Blood Horse products. These include the stakes results shelves in both the Blood Horse Magazine and Blood Horse Now online, as well as the Auction Edge Premier Edition. In addition, also in development are products for pedigree professionals, automated mating reports, stallion nicking reports, and other custom tools for stallion farms and managers.
Over the past week, several customers have emailed with questions about how the TrueNicks works and who benefits from the system. Let's join TrueNicks co-founders Alan Porter and Byron Rogers as they respond to each question. Alan comes to us from the studio, and Byron is connected by phone from Australia. Alan, let's start with you. What is the difference between TrueNicks and other nicking programs?
TrueNicks uses the Jockey Club database to compare how a sire or sire line is done when crossed over a broodmare sire or broodmare sire line. It takes that percentage of stakes winners and then compares it with how well that sire or that sire line is done when crossed with all other mares. It then takes only the mares bred to the sire or the sire line and sees how they have done when bred to all other stallions. By comparing and combining those two numbers, TrueNicks gives a rating that's based on true opportunity. Another unique aspect of TrueNicks is that the Jockey Club database is updated daily. This means that breeders and buyers can act in confidence, knowing that they all are always working with the latest possible information.
Another reader is wondering if they can call in with their credit card to purchase reports.
There's not a call-in facility for TrueNicks. But you can use your credit card to purchase TrueNicks. You can do this by going to the TrueNicks site or by going to the Jockey Club site. From there, you'll be given the opportunity to purchase a TrueNick online using a credit card.
Now, we understand that some of the stallions on the list are sponsored. Where could we find that list?
You can find which stallions have free reports by going to the TrueNicks website. There, the stallions that subscribe for free reports are sorted alphabetically, and they're also sorted by farm. TrueNicks subscribed stallions can also be found on the Bloodhorse Stallion Register online. The TrueNicks logo appears on the individual stallion page, and also alongside any subscribing stallion's name in a list of horses sorted by region or stud fee. So you just click on the logo, and you're able to run a complimentary TrueNicks report for any mare with that stallion. In addition, many of the farms that subscribe to TrueNicks have the TrueNicks logo on their own website.
Now here's a reader that's a stallion owner and has a small advertising budget. What would they get out of subscribing their stallions?
Well, the ability of breeders to run a complementary mating with a given stallion is likely to give considerable additional interest in that horse. Breeders are far more likely to have confidence in breeding to a stallion where they have a positive indication that the mating will work and is a strong one. In addition, the TrueNicks makes it easy for a breeder to consider all the stallions at a farm, so it encourages them to look at potential matings with other stallions there. Of course, the TrueNicks program gives unlimited access to run reports with a chosen mare and subscribing stallion, and it makes that an invaluable tool for the farm to use in-house. The ability of breeders to obtain TrueNicks reports for a stallion also greatly increases the chances of that stallion receiving mares that are likely to complement him on pedigree, and that's a highly important factor for the potential in the sire's success. TrueNicks is also developing a number of important reporting tools that will inform stallion owners when a nick is run, the identity of the mare, and the resulting output. Breeders will also be able to register to put that direct email contact with the subscribing farm. TrueNicks is also in the process of developing a number of exciting stallion management aids, and these will be only available for subscribing stallions.
What benefit do breeders get from this system versus another system?
I'm going to pass that question to Byron Rogers.
It's a very big benefit because it does provide, a reality-based information. But the key probably, and I think Alan will agree on this, is not, a TrueNicks rating system is a very good system. It works outstandingly well, but it is not the only key to breeders, what they should be considering when making matings, or what owners and trainers should be looking at when they're selecting horses. Paper doesn't run very fast, and the reality is that this is one part of the pedigree that we're looking at. It is a great place to start because we believe that we've actually done a strong statistical test on this, and we've shown that there is a high correlation between A B plus and A rated horses going on to stake success. But it's not the only thing. I mean, obviously, conformation and aptitude and various other parts of the pedigree that we, all need to be considered and weighted appropriately. But from the viewpoint of a breeder and an owner, this system is a great starting point, a great tool to use to refine your selections down, or to, if you've got a mare, just to look at the stallions that really do suit the mare from the start.
Can readers sign up for unlimited reports running any mare against any stallions they might want?
There's no limit to the number of complementary reports that can be run for subscribing stallions. For named horses or for hypothetical foals by stallions that aren't subscribing, TrueNicks can be obtained for a $20 charge.
Now, what is the highest variance score possible, and does that mean that the foal is hundreds of times more likely to be a stakes winner?
The highest variant I can remember seeing is around in the 500s. But that's not a statistical reflection of the likelihood of that horse becoming a stakes winner. What needs to be understood is that the TrueNicks rating is not a linear rating. That horses that below average can score anywhere from 0 to just under 1, but an above average horse can be scored anywhere from 1 up into the high hundreds. This is one of the reasons we introduced the letter grade, to make this more easily understood. So what we find is that an excellent horse with a rating of A++ can be rated anywhere from, say, 6.5 upwards.
So what do these numbers mean?
We'll let Byron Rogers answer that question.
From a practical standpoint, if I was just looking at it from someone a layman's terms and looking at it saying, what am I trying to achieve, I think anything about a B plus or better is probably where you want to start to think, this is a solid mating.
One of our readers notices that they've seen the green logo on the Stallion Register web pages. What does that signify?
The TrueNicks logo on a stallion's page signifies that that stallion is a subscribing stallion to TrueNicks, and that you can receive complimentary reports to that stallion with any mare by clicking on the logo.
Alan, here's an interesting situation. We have a reader that has a mare in foal. They ran a TrueNicks report and it shows the foal will be a D cross, but they also ran reports on the mare and the stallion and they got an A and A plus rating. So how can the foal be so bad?
Because TrueNicks reflects the affinity between the sire and the dam, or the sire line and the broodmare sire line, it's possible for both the sire and the mare to have an excellent nick, but not to have an affinity for each other. An example might be the mating that's going to happen just now between Giant's Causeway and Rags to Riches. Giant's Causeway is an A double plus nick rated horse. Rags to Riches is an A plus nick rated horse. But the foal only has a nick rating of C. That's because Giant's Causeway's sire, Stormcat, has 2 stakes winners from only 7 foals out of mares by Rags to Riches sire's AP Indy, but there have been 42 starters by Stormcat's sons out of AP Indy mares and only 1 stakes winner. So although both parents are very highly rated, the nick doesn't have such a high rating.
Alan, can you explain the flexibility of nick ratings a little bit, perhaps explaining how the grade might change if a horse goes out and wins a stakes race?
The TrueNicks program is created and constructed so as it quickly knows and reflects recent stakes winners. That means that breeders and buyers can act in confidence knowing that they always have the most recent available data. Now, it sometimes happens that a stakes win will change a rating, will upgrade a rating. This often happens when there's been little opportunity for the mating so far. However, TrueNicks is also carefully constructed that once a high rating is established, it's very difficult and it takes a long time for that rating to change negatively.
Now the logo for TrueNicks says, do more than just hope for the best. What does that mean?
There is an old saying, breed to the best and hope for the best. We hope that using TrueNicks and intelligent application of other tools available, breeders can do a lot more than just hope for the best.
Alan, we understand that you do pedigree recommendations for a lot of the major breeders. Do those numbers factor into your evaluations?
Firstly, I'd like to say that I've always considered nicks and of sireline affinities when I've been planning matings. However, until the advent of TrueNicks, there's been no solid, measurable way of knowing with any certainty how strong a nick is. It's only when you have all the data that you're able to conclusively measure that. And this was one of my main motivations behind creating TrueNicks. I've been using the test version of TrueNicks for several months now, and I found it an invaluable tool. It's provided some real surprises. However, while you think you know nicks, until you get a solid reflection with all the data available, you never really know the strength of an affinity and the opportunity it's had.
As an example, would an unproven son of AP Indy really be as good as his sire? And if not, then why would they have the same ranking with the same mare?
Well, firstly, we ought to say that at this stage, a son of AP Indy and AP Indy himself are probably not going to have the same ranking. If we looked at a mare by an unproven son of AP Indy, say Bernardini, we'd find that that ranking included AP Indy and his sons. So the rating would be different from AP Indy. But let's consider for the moment a stallion that doesn't have any sons that have had runners. Then, yes, the son will have a similar rating to the sire. However, it doesn't mean that the son would be just as good or better as a sire. I mean, take for the example a son of AP Indy standing inexpensively in a regional market and compared to AP Indy. I think anybody would agree that they'd rather breed their horse to AP Indy if it was affordable and if the mare would get in. However, in a case where a sire is by a stallion who does not have any other sire sons, the rating for a sire and his horse might well be the same. At this stage, it's important to understand what TrueNicks is and what it isn't. TrueNicks is the most powerful, sophisticated and accurate nicking program yet created. And the studies of over 100,000 horses indicate that nicks, as calculated by TrueNicks, are a strong indicator of future success. What TrueNicks does particularly well is to compare like with like between similar stallions in a price range for matings or yearlings with a similar commercial value, for example. Do you have any thoughts on that, Byron?
Yeah, that's the mathematics behind it, and that's the important part of it. But there was also a series of logic steps which we had to use, a series of cut-offs and requirements for a calculation to be made. We had to deal with unique situations like the stallions having hyperbooks, like in these days where a young stallion will serve a big book of mares. These nicks can get nick ratings can get created or calculated very quickly on the young stallion when the opportunity for their foals to actually perform on the racetrack hasn't quite been fulfilled. They're basically these young sides that are serving these big books of mares tend to generate their own data set very quickly without that data set having the full opportunity to perform. So I had to put a lot of logic steps in between to actually come up with some fair ways of dealing with unique situations.
Thank you, Byron. That's a very good point.
Alan, do all horses go through the same calculation, or are some assigned A's because of their performance?
No horse or hypothetical mating gets a rating without going through the TrueNicks calculation process. That basic process is the same for all horses. The only thing that differs is how far or how many generations one has to go back to achieve a rating. The TrueNicks program is carefully designed to make sure that we have to go back the minimum number of generations from the original sire dam to achieve a rating.
Now, we know that mares are half the pedigree. If TrueNicks doesn't take the female family into account, how is the system useful?
The quality of the female line is obviously an important one, both in terms of the likely production and in commercial value. However, in terms of planning a mating or evaluating stock, our studies have shown that there is a higher correlation between the nick rating, the affinity between the sire and the broodmare sire line, than there is between the sire line and the family.
Alan, would you tell us a little bit about some of the best nicks in history?
The importance of nicks has been well known since the early days of the thoroughbred. Even back in the late 1700s, the nick between Eclipse and Mares by Herod was a known one. Since then, there have been nicks which have basically framed and created the breed. Hermit Stockwell, Bendor Macaroni, the Phalaris Chaucer nick. Most American stallions trace back to a horse bred on the Phalaris Chaucer nick. Now, two of the most important horses in American racing history, Man of War and Secretariat, are products of famous nicks. Man of War was the product of the Fairplay Roxanne nick. Secretariat, who incidentally is an A+ nick on TrueNicks, he was a product of the Bold Ruler Prince Quillo nick.
And are there any stallions that nick particularly well with all mares?
There are stallions out there that nick with a wider proportion of the broodmare population. Some stallions work with more different broodmare sires, more different broodmare sire lines than others. However, we find that nearly all stallions have specific preferences and also specific dislikes. Even a stallion like Wild Again, who had stakes winners out of more than 60 different broodmare sires, crossed less well with some sire lines.
What should I consider along with the TrueNicks report when I choose a sire for my mare?
In addition to the TrueNick report, there are several factors one should consider before planning a mating. One has to consider temperament of the sire, the aptitude the mating has, the physical suitability, and from a pedigree standpoint, one should also consider other interesting inbreeding or line breeding factors. For commercial breeders, you also have to consider the value of the stallion and what commercial appeal the offspring of that stallion is likely to have.
Alan, one of our readers would like to know whether everyone at TrueNicks has an accent.
The quick answer is no, only the Americans. Seriously, however, Byron Rogers is an Australian. He's worked in the racing industry in Australia, Asia, Europe, and in North America. Obviously, I'm English. I worked in the industry in both England and North America. I've been involved in the matings that have produced champions or classic winners in 12 countries. Combine this with the reservoir of experience available at the Jockey Club and the Blood Horse, and it's clear that those involved in TrueNicks have had a tremendous experience of the industry on a broad and worldwide basis.
Is there anywhere that I can see TrueNicks ratings for real horses so that I can see for myself how it works?
The TrueNicks rating has already begun to appear in the Blood Horse Data Digest. It also appears in the blog at TrueNicks, and very soon will be added to the stake shells in the Blood Horse magazine, also in the Blood Horse Now online, and to premium editions of the Auction Edge.
Some other programs don't include state-bred stakes into their calculations. If you're a breeder standing a stallion outside of Kentucky, will TrueNicks include those stakes?
Unlike other programs, TrueNicks does include state-bred and restricted stakes winners in its results. The TrueNicks program is carefully designed so that we can include these horses without damaging the integrity of the results. This makes the TrueNicks program particularly valuable for stallions standing in a regional market.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for right now. Alan, Byron, thank you for being here today. To our viewers, if you have any questions that weren't covered in this presentation, please send them by email to admin@truenicks.com or use the question submission form at the bottom of your screen. Alan and Byron will address additional questions over the next few days within their posts on the TrueNicks blog, located at www.truenicks.com. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you leave with a better understanding of the value of pedigree nicking and the TrueNicks system.